What's up, guys? Welcome to What's the Catch. Today, just want to continue on my my how to catch and stay on bigger fish without electronics from the bank of the boat. This is going to be a part 2. We're talking about your spring-fed and your glacier lakes, your deeper lakes, a little bit bigger acreage lakes, those lakes where you don't have that much access to from the bank. You only have a few things you can fish. So there's only a few things to look for. For me, number one, what I'm looking for all year round, winter, spring, fall, summer, is I'm looking for the steepest drop off the shore. The reason why is because in the winter time, I feel like bass don't want to move that much, especially the bigger ones. So if it's deeper closer to the shore, that bass, a bigger bass is going to probably want to ambush from that area, because it's a little deeper, it's a little warmer when it's deeper in the winter time, and also when you're closer to shore and the bait pods are maybe sunbathing a little bit, when the sun comes up in the winter or something, or they're just swimming around in their pods. It's an easier ambush for the bigger bass to come up from the depths, ambush, and go right back to where he came from. And if you can find a deep bank close to shore and without electronics, and as a bank fisherman, the way you can do that is by looking at the shoreline. If you come down on a steep shoreline, if you had to walk down a hill to get to the water, chances are that continues down into the water, and you'll have a deeper shoreline next to you. You can walk 5 feet out and then it'll be 10 feet deep, and that's what I'm talking about. So in the wintertime, it'll allow bigger fish to congregate in those deeper areas and attack in the shallow areas and be able to go right back to where they were ambushing from. So also another good thing to know is when you're fishing, the deep spot in the summertime, it's bringing the weed line closer to you. You fish a flat or you fish a shoal area, it's going to be full of grass. There's going to be so much area to cover. And big bass, they like lines. They like weed lines. They like edges. They like edges of lilies. They like those type of things. So if you're sitting and fishing in a flat full of grass, they're going to be buried in there. It's going to be harder and long. You're going to be taking a lot longer trying to find those fish. So why, if you don't have all the time in the world and you want to catch big fish, why you want to spend all day trying to fish to find one big fish when you could probably put a couple big fish in your area and bring those fish a lot closer to you a lot quicker? And that's what I mean by finding the deeper edge to shore. So in the summertime, that's how it translates from the winter. The sunlight only penetrates so far. So when you have a deep edge close to the shore, that grass line is going to stop growing. And then guess what? You don't have to cast 100 yards to get to the edge of the grass line. You know where the edge of the grass line is because you can feel it with your bait. Once you feel it with the bait, you know that it's 15 feet out, 10 feet out, then you know generally along that whole bank, if it's the same depth, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be 10 or 15 feet out, okay? It's really not that rocket science, but once you find those patterns, and you got to stick to those patterns, and I stick to those patterns all year round from the bank. I'm always looking for my deepest drop off first, okay? And then I'm looking for points of access. Any point that I can access from the Google Maps or whatever, that I can walk through the woods and get to a point and fish the point. And how I fish the point is I almost drop a triangle down on the point and fish from the 3 points and cast from one point to the next point, okay? If you're from the bank, you only have 2 points. If you drop a triangle on a point, you're only gonna have 2 points. The lower points, the 2 flat, the 2 points that aren't standing at the top of the point, that's the only access you have. So what you're gonna do is, to make the big bass feel like you're pinning the bait to the shoreline, you're gonna cast out to the point. Just like on your deep shoreline, same thing. When you bring a deep shoreline closer to you, now you don't have to fan cast all the way out and deep and all over the place. You can just keep running your bait along the shoreline and agonizing and really pissing these bass off, and then they're gonna attack, okay? So with the point though, coming back to a point and how I fish the point is, I'm gonna cast out to the deepest part of the point and work my way into the closest point. Out to the deepest point, bring it back. A little closer, bring it back. A little closer, bring it back. Okay? So out to the deepest point, and that allows the bigger bass to feel like he has the advantage and he's pinning the bait, whether if it's a big swim bait, a spinner bait. Right now we have wind. You know me, I like throwing spinner baits in the wind. You got, you know, the wind brings up bait pods, brings the bait a little bit closer to the surface, as well as the bass. So, you know, that's what I like to throw. We are very clear today. Today the water's super clear and clean. You know, a couple of days after some rain, generally speaking, that will clean up the water a little bit, but we do have the wind. But the most important thing for fishing to target these bigger fish from the bank of the boat without electronics, and like I'm saying, you can apply this without the electronics with the boat. When I was fishing tournaments with the boat and I didn't have electronics, I would go to the steepest drop-offs to banks, because I feel like the biggest fish want to spend the least energy to try to catch their food. So I want to make it easy for them too. I want to present something that's easy for them, and it's worked out for me. I find that I've caught a lot of big fish doing these things, and if it doesn't work, that's when I'll start to go and do other things. I'll go fishing edges of lily pads. I'll go fish, you know, other laydowns and sticks, or if I did have electronics, then I would start to go offshore. But even if I had electronics, I'm probably going to the deep shorelines first, just because that's something I've grown up on. I know that. I'm comfortable with that. So I'm gonna go with my strengths. So whatever strengths you have, you gotta go with for sure. But I go with my strengths. I stay with my strengths, and these are my strengths. And from the bank, that's what I'm looking for. Deep drop off. That's it. This lake that I'm fishing is huge. I have plenty of access to the shoreline here, but I wouldn't waste my time on 75% of the shoreline from the bank, because I'm only looking for big fish, and I'm not looking to fish all day. I mean, I love fishing all day, but I don't have all day, right? So I have a couple hours. I have an hour. So what I'm gonna do is I want to bring the fish to me. Find a deep shoreline to bank. Okay? Find a point of access. That's how you bring fish to you, and those are ambush areas for big fish. Like I said, you might not catch a fish one day. You know, it happens. Not everybody, pros don't catch fish all the time. Trust me. So, you know, but your probability comes up, your chances come up. You know, you catch bigger fish more often, and if you apply this, I guarantee you'll catch your PB this year. We got some ospreys up. That means the bait fish are on the surface, the ospreys are out. They see things too. The best fishermen in the world right there. Might have to slow it down a little. And that's only because the water's very clear right now. So that's the only reason. Other than that, like I said, I love throwing moving bait. But I also like a little bit more dinge to the water. As well, with these deeper banks that you fish, you know, you get that light penetration line, and you know how fish like to hide right outside that visibility line. So if it doesn't have much stuff going on the bank, like I said, that doesn't matter. They'll sit right in that visibility line where you can't see them. Go ahead and go with something a little bit more natural. I feel like that'll get us on a bigger fish. For those of you guys that don't know what a slither rig is, this is a slither rig, right? Jig impression, jig impersonation. But here's the deal, you got a bullet weight, right? I have a pin with a bobber stopper. Separation, okay? Weedless. Standard jig isn't weedless. I mean, it's weedless to a certain, you know, a football jig, you know, all those kind of jigs. They're weedless, they got a weed guard, but they're not weedless when you get stuck in a laydown from bank and you're sitting in a fork and this is all you feel the whole time you're trying to get it out. Bunk, bunk, and you sit there for 15 minutes trying to finesse it and get it to hop over and out. Sometimes you're gonna be doing that often. So the best way to get around that is to either throw a big worm with a worm weight, or if you wanna have a jig impersonation, compression. You go with the slither rig. It's got the bullet weight, slides through stuff a lot easier, slides through grass a lot easier. I love the slither rig in eelgrass. Okay, instead of throwing jigs, coming back and have to clean your jig off all the time, there's your jig impersonation without having to clean the jig off all the time. Right there, piece of cake, Strike King slither rig, okay? I like to, you know, you can bury your hook a little bit. Right, this is a Rage Crawl trailer, Strike King Rage Crawl. But I do like to have the hook a little exposed. So if I hook a tree, it's because I like the hook a little exposed. It is completely weedless, but it's just easier. It's just easier to hook up on a fish. I don't want to lose the fish, having set the hook and pull it out of its mouth. You know, so that's why I don't bury the hook. But I will not get hooked up in laydowns as much as a regular jig, for sure. Beautiful yellow perch was just following. Colors are vibrant. That's what I said, deep banks, deep banks. Stay on. So guys, what did I say? Deep banks. Your steep banks. That's what you look for all year round. Pure as day. Okay? Steep banks, points of access. When you don't have electronics and you don't have those means to find them, bring the bass to you. Put the advantage in your half. Put the ball in your court. And that's how you do it. Not as big as I thought, but you know. 5'5". A little thick. It's big though. I thought she was gonna be more like a 6er. Maybe we'll get a 6 on the next cast. That's how we do it. Solid fish, beautiful girl, man. She's just really beautiful. Big old mouth. All right, guys. So what's the catch? The catch is for these glacier fed or glacier spring fed, your deeper, bigger acreage lakes, clearer body waters, what you want to do is bring the fish to you. Fish your steepest banks off of the bank. How do you find them? The shoreline. How'd you walk in on the water? Did you come down on a steep bank? Generally speaking, that bank, that shoreline going off into the water is going to be the same as the shoreline you're looking at. If the shoreline you're looking at is generally flat in the water, it's going to be generally flat, and then it might drop off. So that's number one. Look for your deepest drop-offs closest to shore. Bring those bass to you. This is for all seasons: winter, spring, fall, summer. The grass line will be closer to you. In the winter time, they like to sit deep and feed quick and come up shallow and go deep quick. That's how you get those bigger bass to come closer to you in the winter time. That's how they become more accessible. That's how you can fish all year round and still have a good season in the winter time. All right. Number two, points of access. Pyramid system. Drop a triangle down on the point. If you're from the bank, you can only fish those 2 points on the shoreline. Cast out to the tip of the point, furthest tip out, bring it back. Make that bass feel like he's pinning the bait to the shoreline. Work inside the triangle. Don't step inside the triangle until you're done fishing it from that one side. Go to the other side and do the same. If you're from a boat, you have all 3 points of access. Come in shallow, cast out to the point first. Always come to that shallow point first if you're on a boat. This is without electronics. Come to that shallow point first, cast out to the tip of the point. Bring that big swim bait back, bring that spinner bait back, bring whatever moving baits you have. Make that bass feel like it's pinned. Also, now that you have the boat, you have the access to go to the tip of the point. Go to the tip of the point, cast back to the shallow corner of the point, bring it back along the point. Make that bass feel like he has the advantage. You will get bit. You will catch your PB, and you will catch it in less time than not. The third tip is if you don't have enough time to fish, and you want to catch big fish, you want to stay on big fish consistently, fish your moon phases. 5 days before the full moon, 5 days after the full moon, 5 days before the new moon, 5 days after the new moon. Try to get a day or two within that period if you only have 4 days to fish during the month. Do it then. And try to get the day where it's going to be rainy or cloudy or there's a variable, there's high winds. Don't go on those days where it's going to be extremely beautiful and you're like, wow, it's so beautiful, let's go fishing. No, get uncomfortable, then go fishing. That's my story. That's how you stay on big fish consistently. And then what else we got? You know, get out there and fish. You know, if you don't, you know, I mean, if you have the time, get out there and fish. Your chances of catching a big one go up. Pretty much, that's it. That's not even a tip. That's the catch, man. You know it. Fish hard. Like, subscribe, do what you gotta do.
Ain't no complaining over here. This is why we do it every single year. Get up at the first sign of light. Put your chin up. This is why we win and get your grin up. Ain't no complaining over here. This is why we do it every single year.